Hello students, good evening to all of you. Students, I hope that all of you are doing good. All set students, now for the last session of the time of supply. Students, I'll just make a quick announcement. So all the PDF students I have made ready for all of you. Only the ITC PDF students which is there I have done a lot of questions which are there in ITC. The PDF which is there of input tax credit, that I suppose has got around 50 problems, 50 or 55 problems. And as you know, it is a very important topic. You say, sir, why you have kept so many problems? Because I can't help it. Because this is such an important topic that in every attempt they are asking a lot of questions. So study mat has the question, RTP has the question, MTP had the question, PYP had the question, previous year paper had the question. So around 60 questions are already been there, which virtually covers every possible permutation combination on ITC. But at the same time, friends, if we do ITC in this normal way, then it will take a lot of time primarily to complete this topic of ITC only. And that primarily would be disastrous to justify the other topics also. So students, what therefore I have planned for all of you is this. Now pay attention. Like after this topic, the next topic is the payment of tax, thereafter place of supply, and the next in the pipeline is ITC. Students, what we will do is this, that all the other topics also which is following, like returns are there, e-way bill, invoices, thereafter the demand offense, these topics are not big, but they are very important also. So what we will do, students, would be this, that we will split our session, that ITC we will do primarily every day half an hour, and 1 hour we will allocate for our normal particular discourse of that topic, the topic that we are doing it. So this way what will happen is that slowly and steadily we will complete the ITC, okay, without feeling the pinch of it. And at the same time, it will also justify the coverage of all the topic of GST as well, without rushing towards the end. Are you getting this particular point, students? So this is a strategy, students, which I thought to just share with all of you. If you approve it, accordingly, I will also will plan it in this particular way. What is your take, students, in this? Kavita? Sure. Students, I think this plan sounds good. Aveen, perfect, students. So let's do this one. Again, I'm students repeating, I did not repeat this particular point again and again. We are doing only GST here. In September, I have told you that I will complete your GST with the question and answers. Customs and FTP, students, you are supposed to do it. The 20 marks. Are you aware of that or forgotten by now? We actually could not realize this thing. Hope that you have already started with the customs at the same time. So GST, all the Q&As. I'll share the PDF, students. I think in your group I have not shared the PDF file. So the PDF file, students, is already been there. Some students have ordered for hard copy. Tomorrow I'll dispatch it. Tomorrow I'm going to dispatch the hard copy. 1-2 topics are left. So tonight or so it will be done. The last 1-2 topics that will be done. So I will just send the hard copy for some of the students who have ordered it. Is there any lectures? Let's start, students. Now, coming to the students, the next question. Now, today, students, we will be wrapping up this time of supply. Those who have just joined in, I made some important announcement just 5 minutes before. So just ensure to see that 5 minutes before lecture. Okay, for that entire GST revision in this month of September. So students, coming to our question now. Let's look upon to the next question. One of the beautiful questions today. Beautiful question. I hope that all of you have done the first and the second video of time of supply. The first and second video of time of supply. Sure, Kavita. Perfect. Now let's look upon to this one now, students. All of you. Mark this question to be the question on the last day. This question should be referred on the last day, students. Which question? Question number 9. Question number 9, students. Last day revision. This question number 9. Fine, students. Have you written question number 9, last day revision? All of you. In your notebook, at least you can write, no? So, students, question number 9, last day revision. Let's start. KLM Limited, a publishing printing house registered in Maharashtra, is engaged in supply of books, letter cards, envelope, guides, and reference materials. The following information is provided by the company. Okay, the following information is provided by the company. What is that information? These are the information. Event: printing of books and printing of envelopes. Students, printing of books and printing of envelope. That is what it is in this regard. Now, what is that event, students, which has been there? Date of entering into printing contract. The date of entering into the printing contract, 16th of March. Students, 16th of March. And the printing of envelopes, students, 20th March. By the way, students, as far as the time of supply is concerned, I think all of you are aware of it, that this concept of students entering the contract has got nothing to do in determination of time of supply. All of you also agree to this point, isn't it? Let's then proceed further. Date of receipt of advance. This is important. So far as the advance receipt is concerned, this helps us to determine the time of supply in the case of supply of service. But so far as the supply of goods is concerned, if you have received any advance money before the supply has taken place, then such particular advance money so received will be ignored, in determining the time of supply. So that will be ignored in determining the time of supply. Is that clear to all of you? For goods. Date of completion of printing, 10th April. Date of issue of invoice. Date of removal of the books and letterhead to buyer. And the next one, friends, is date of receipt of balance payment. These are the things. Let's see what is the question. In respect of printing of books, content was supplied by the author. In respect of what? Printing of books, content was supplied by the author. For printing of envelopes, the design and logo were supplied by the buyer. Determine the time of supplies for the purpose of payment of tax. Fine, students. Now, students, how do we deal with it? Now, please understand, in the previous lecture also, I think the first class, remember that first class, there also we have this situation where we did one question. Remember that question wherein there was a job work which was about service, and then there was a supply of goods. So that question also involved both supply of goods as well as supply of service. And then we were supposed to discuss what is the time of supply in that case. So students, whenever such combination comes, so that becomes a comprehensive question, isn't it? Whenever such combination comes where you are asked one particular set of data pertaining to time of supply of goods, another is supply of service, then the presentation which I am now going to give it to you, you can consider it. Why? It will save your time. Plus, you will write everything what is required to be written on the provision front as well. Save time and write everything as far as the provision is concerned, so as to ensure what? So as to ensure that you get full marks. Yes, Kavita. So as to ensure that you get full marks, students. Is that part clear to all of you? Everyone? Perfect. That be the case, students. Let's then look into it. Students, what you will do in such particular questions? You'll make three columns. One is the particulars. Now, in this particular case, the second one was about printing of books. Printing of books. The next one, students, which was there was about the printing of envelopes. Okay. Here are three columns. So now, students, what has happened? If you see in this question, students, you will find one unique thing. The recipient has given something in both the case. Did you see the last paragraph? What did the last paragraph say? In respect of printing of books, content was supplied by the author. And from printing of envelope, the design and logo were supplied by the buyer. So what I'm writing over here in this nothing but the recipient, students. Recipient is providing what? Recipient provides what, students? In this context. What does the recipient provide, students? In this case, for books is content. And what about the second one, students? Design and logo. Here, design and logo. Now just try to visualize this question, students. Maybe it will be easier for you first to visualize the question. I can easily relate it and you can also relate it. Students, the books. Just now some students have ordered the books. PDF I'm giving it. Now what I do is that I email the content to the printer. Okay, now printer will have its blank paper, and on blank paper it will use its printing machine and it will do that printing work in that context. And then what he will do? He will do the lamination work. And once that lamination work is done, thereafter he will start dispatching the books or send the books to me. So what he has done, he has made the books for me. In that case, I gave him the content, he made the books for me. In that scenario. So that is a job that he is doing it for me by making the books for me. That is what he does it in this case. So that's what I can relate it. In the second case, students, do you know what is the second example? Second example is I have an envelope already, students. Envelope is there. In this case, this is the envelope. A plain envelope. This is a plain envelope now. And everyone now, this is a shop. I am having the plain envelope. Now you are coming and you are saying that, look, boss, I want to put up my company's name in the envelope so that it makes the impression. Also put my logo also here. This is which is in the blue color. Put the logo also over here in this case. So that logo and all. So I had a finished product with me, which is the envelope, and you came to me and you want this printing to be done on this particular envelope. That is it. That is it. So on the envelope. So I have not prepared the envelope for you. On the envelope, on the on the final output, which is envelope, I did the printing for you. That is it. And then I gave you a printed envelope. What I gave it to you, students? A printed envelope. Is that now? Can you relate with this one, students? All of you. Perfect. So what the supplier did, students, in this case? What the supplier did activity in this context? Herein. So over here, supplier activity was Printing on the paper. Printing on the paper. Belonging to supplier. What about the next one, students? The second one over here. Printing. Printing on ready-made envelope. Ready-made envelope belonging to the supplier. Okay. Is that clear to all of you, students? So here it is a printing on the paper. This is on the ready-made envelope. I hope that all of you clear with this one. Now the question is, friends, now you remember this question, the half part of this question we already did. You know which chapter we did the half part of question? It's that question of composite and mixed supply. I think that was some fourth or fifth class. I don't remember the class number, but it is there already. So now, students, in this case, what is the principle of predominant supply? Is it of goods or is it of service? Yeah, composite supply. Principle of predominant, students. Please tell me, what do you think? What is predominant over here? In the first case, remember it. This is, students, supply of predominant would be supply of printing. Supply of printing in the first case. He is doing a job work. He is providing a job work. Supply of printing. He is not giving a goods. What do you mean by goods, Aveen? Goods means something which is standard. Is envelope a standard article? Is an envelope a standard article? Yes. Standard article, marketable, movable. So it's a goods. On that goods, I did some printing. My textbook, which is customized to my students who are attending my class. In that scenario. Now you tell me in that case. So a customized textbook which I have prepared for a practice batch for that thing, is it a kind of a goods? No. You did some job work for me, customized to my needs. Customized what? To my needs. And therefore you did a work for me, customized to my needs. Which work? The work of printing on the paper. Printing of what? The content which I have provided to you. That content you have printed on the paper which belong to you. Therefore, that becomes the case of supply of service. That becomes what? The case of supply of service. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. So that is a supply of printing, which is nothing but what? Supply. The predominant is supply of service. Somebody will say, sir, I thought the predominant is the paper. Is paper a predominant thing or that printing is predominant over here? It is the printing which is predominant. The job work was predominant. What was the job work? My content you need to print on that paper. In that case, my content you need to print. So that printing activity was a predominant supply. That paper was not a predominant supply. That I was begging for that paper. That exactly is the game. Now over here, if you see in this context, here it is what? Here it is, we will say supply of. Still it is what, friends? It is an envelope only. It is an envelope only. But now it has become a printed envelope. But envelope, was it a ready-made goods? Was the envelope already a goods? Yes. What I did extra is to do a print. But whether this envelope will be used for the same purpose? By printing, did I change the purpose? Tell me. By printing now, did it change the purpose? Without printing also, I would have sent it to whom? To that thing. The envelopes are being used for sending the letters, couriers. That is the purpose. Now, after printing also, it is the same. isn't it? Just only thing that has happened is that my brand is increased because I am using a printed envelope. Supply of what? Supply of printed envelope, which is nothing but a supply of what? Supply. Predominant is supply of goods. Students, what is predominant over here? What is predominant over here? Supply of goods. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. So predominant over here is the supply of goods, and that exactly is the point, friends. That exactly is the point. Fine, friends. Coming to this next one, friends, over here. Now, this is service and this is goods. So time of supply for service, which section? 13.2. 13.2. Time of supply for goods, which section? 12.2. Are you getting this one or not? That exactly the point. 12.2. Now you recall, students, for 13.2. Let's recall that provision again. It is always good to recall the provision, isn't it? So 13.2 for time of supply of service says that you have to first ask one important question. For determining the time of supply for service, you have to ask one important question. What is that question, students? So the question that you have to ask, students, over here is, quickly, is that, did you issue the invoice, students? Did you issue the invoice? When? On or before? Did you issue the invoice, students? On or before the due date of section 31? That exactly is the point. That exactly is the point, students. Herein. And if you have, that is the first question that you have to ask. Yes, sure. Whether the invoice is issued within the due date of section 31 or not. If the answer is yes, you have issued the invoice within the due date of section 31, then what happens? Then you do the comparison. Comparison of what? The date of issue of invoice versus the date of the actual payment of receipt. Payment of that amount which you have received, whichever is earlier. But if you say, no, sir, I have not received the invoice was not issued within the due date of section 31, in that particular case, the time of supply will then be the earlier of the two dates. Which are those two dates? One is the date of provision of service, which is the completion of supply of service, which will be compared with what? It will be compared with the receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier, friends. Abhi, Kavita. Indeed. I hope that all of you are clear with this one now. So that is what it is. So let's see what is the scenario over here in that case. If you all agree to this proposition. If you all agree to this proposition, students, let's see. Let's look upon to the service part. So this we have concluded that, students, this is the service and this is the goods. Now when the printing has completion, what is the completion, students? I will write everything. What is the completion, students? Completion is 10th of April. When the invoice is issued, can you see that? When the invoice was issued? Invoice is issued on 15th of May. Is the invoice issued within 30 days? Now please tell me in this case, what is the due date, by the way? What is the due date for issuing the invoice? The due date for issuing the invoice. Now please pay attention, all of you, just pay attention. Just stop, students, for 10 seconds. Please stop. The due date for issue of invoice under section 31, so far as this service is concerned. Now be careful, you have to identify if the service is the one-time supply of service or the normal supply of service, or it is a continuous supply of service. This question is all about the normal supply of service. This question, students, is about the normal supply of service. This is not a continuous supply of service. If it is a continuous supply of service, the second lecture I already told you what is the scenario that will develop. But this is a normal supply of service, and if it is a normal supply of service, then what is the due date by which students, by which the invoice should have been issued under section 31? The due date is 30 or 45 days. 30 or 45 days within 30 and 45 days from the completion of service. Within 30 or 45 days from the date of completion of service. That is what we know. Within 30 or 45 days from the date of completion of service. Is that clear to all of you? That is for one-time supply, students, or the supply in the normal course. Had it been the continuous supply of service, then students, if it is a continuous supply of service, then how do we go about it? In that case, students, you have to first ask the question. What is the question that needs to be asked? That whether the contract specify the date on which the payment has to be made. If the contract specifies the date, then that date will become the due date for the purpose of issue of invoice under 31. And if the contract does not specify the date, then in that case, students, what happens? You have to ask another question. What is the other question? If the date is not specified, whether the payment is linked with any event. If the answer is yes, then that happening of the event becomes the due date for the issue of invoice under section 31. The happening of that event becomes the due date for the purpose of issue of invoice under section 31. Is that point clear to all of you, students? Every one of you? Okay, you say no, sir, event is not there. You say, sir, no, sir, even event is not been specified in the contract. Fine. In such case, the due date will be as and when you receive the amount from the recipient. As and when you receive the amount from the recipient, that will become your time of supply. That will become your time of supply, students. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. Is the point. That exactly is the point. So with that, students, we are through with this one. In this context, please understand, students, in continuous supply of service, there is no grace days of 30 or 45 days. These are the due dates which we have discussed just now. But if it is a one-time supply or the supply in the normal course, then in that case, from the completion of service, you are allowed a grace days of 30 or 45 days. Within that, the due date arises to issue the invoice under section 31. To issue the invoice under section 31. Is that point clear to all of you, students? Every one of you are clear with this proposition? I hope that there is no doubt whatsoever so far as this point is concerned. Fine, students. So I think now the ball is set in this regard. Students, 10th of April is the completion of printing, whereas the date of issue of invoice is 15th of May. So is it more than 30 days? Is it more than 30 days, students? Answer is yes. And if it is more than 30 days, students, what we will say, we will not go with what? We will not go with the date of issue of invoice, but we will go with the completion now. So completion will be compared with the payment. Completion will then be compared with what? The payment. Is that point clear to all of you? Everyone? That exactly the game. Students, over here, 13.2, which has been written by all of you. So please write the basic fact first. Once all of you students. Date of completion. 20th of March. Date of issue of invoice. So date of completion is 10th of April. Next is the date of issue of invoice. The date of issue of invoice, students. What is the date of issue of invoice, students? What was that? 10th of April. No? That was 15th of May. 15th of May. Therefore, therefore, the invoice is issued after 30 days from the completion. From the completion. Therefore, time of supply under section 32 will be what? Will be earlier of A or B. A or B, students. And what is A, students, in this case? What is A? Google Truth. What is A? Kavita? Excellent. The rate of provision of service. And B, friends, is the receipt of payment. Now, friends, if you see over here, be careful. We are discussing about the provision of service. Be careful, I told you already. So if you see, friends, very carefully over here, what about the advance receipt? Is there an advance receipt also? Yes, advance receipt is there. So, friends, be careful. See the advance receipt. 20th of March. And I already told it and I'm repeating it for the last time that if it is a service and you are received the advance, then to determine the time of supply for that amount of advance, the advance would also be considered for determination of time of supply. So therefore over here what happens in this regard, students? What happens over here, students? So on the point number A, advance, date of provision of service. The date of provision of service, students, as you know, is 15th May. And what is the due date of receipt of payment? Advance was 10th of March. 10th of, what was that advance date, students? 10th of March? 20th of March. 20th of March. Fine, students. So time of supply would be for advance amount. So whatever is the amount has been given to you? No. In the question, if they give you the amount, please write the amount. Okay. So time of supply would be 15th of March, 15th of May. Point number B, students, would be the balance payment. Point number B would be, students, the balance payment. Now, as far as the balance payment is concerned, in this context, students, the date of this one is 15th of May. And what about this date? The next date? 31st of May. 31st of May, students. For the balance payment, students. So time of supply would be, sorry, in the first case, students, first case, sorry. Please rectify. That exactly the point, students. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Indeed. Perfect, students. Now let's come to this one, friends. On the goods, friends, goods we know. What is the goods part, friends? Time of supply. Already you know that, friends, for goods. You are expert in this. So far the goods are concerned. 12 to. Please tell me. Date of provision will be the date of completion of service. Kavita is asking a question. And the question is whether the date of provision is the date of completion of service. Indeed, Kavita. Indeed. Date of completion of service. So it is 10. Sorry. 10 students, 10th. Yeah. Just rectifying, friends. Just rectifying. All of you, did you rectify? 10th April. I think it has already happened. 10th April. Students, please ensure to write. Fine, students. Coming to the good part, students now. 12 2, what does it says? Earlier of A or B. Remember that format for goods. Earlier of A or B. In A, we compare the two dates. Which is the two dates? Date number 1 is the date of issue of invoice. That date of issue of invoice will be compared with the last date for the issue of invoice. The date of issue of invoice is compared with the last date of the issue of invoice under section 31. That is the due date of the issue of invoice under 31. So what is the due date of issue of invoice under 31? The date of removal of the goods or delivery of the goods. That becomes the due date to issue the invoice. That becomes the due date to issue the invoice. So tell me, students, in this case, was the invoice issued on or before the due date of section 31? Was the invoice issued on or before the due date? When the invoice was issued? Please come to the envelope part now. Envelope which is goods. When the invoice was issued, 10th of April. All of you agree to this one? 10th of April. This is the date of issue of the invoice. Fine. That is the actual date of invoice. What is the due date? What is the due date of issue of invoice? The due date of issue of invoice, students, is over here. This case is 7th of April. When the removal has happened. 7th of April. So can I say therefore that the actual issue of invoice is after the due date? The actual issue of invoice is after the due date. And if it is after the due date, then I will only go by the due date of issue of invoice. So I am now going only by due date of issue of invoice under section 31. Is that clear to all of you? Which is 7th of April. So my A becomes 7th of April. My A becomes 7th of April. What is B, students? B is the date of receipt of payment. Now receipt of payment, you have received advance. You have received advance for goods on 25th of March. So whether that advance that you have received for goods, will you consider that advance? Answer is no. That advance that you have received for the goods, will you consider that advance? Answer is no. What about the 30th of April? The answer is yes. So can I therefore say here for 12-2 students, quickly write 7th April will be compared with what? 30th of April. 30th of April. And accordingly, the final answer is 7th of April. So please write over here 12-2 earlier of what? Quickly students, quickly. A or B? A or? What is A? Quickly students, what is A in this case? A is the date of issue of invoice. The date of issue of invoice. And what is the B? The due date of issue of invoice under section 30. And what is the actual date? 10th of April. What is the due date in the question? In the question, what was the due date? 7th of April. You have already considered that now. 7th of April. After that, friends, the B point. What is the B point? The date of receipt. The date of receipt of payment. Now, date of receipt of payment, friends. Which date you are considering it? 30th of April. 30th of April, friends. Isn't it? Just put it star mark, friends, over here. Asterisk. Just put an asterisk. So first, now conclude. Students, conclude. In A, am I going to take 10th of April or 10th of April will not be considered? 7th of April will be considered. In A, we will consider 7th of April, which is the due date of issue of invoice under 31. What about B? 30th of April. So finally, what is the time of supply? Time of supply is 7th of April. Time of supply is 7th of April. Now just bring that asterisk down and do write a note over here. What is the note? Advance received towards what? Towards the supply of goods. Towards the supply of goods shall be ignored. Shall be ignored on determining on determination of time of supply of goods in the section. Most important note. This is a beautiful question, students. Did you realize that? Beautiful question. The composite supply, mixed supply also has considered, and we have also considered this also. So everything has been considered over here. Therefore, this question becomes a last day revision question. Last day revision question. I hope that every one of you are clear with this one. So we are done with this particular proposition, students. The time of supply is through. Now, a small concept of section 14 is to be considered. But before considering section 14, students, I will quickly run through some remaining small areas of time of supply, which we have already have done, but just for the sake of ensuring that yes, we have completed it, so that there is no doubt as far as our okay. By the way, students, before that, take this as a homework, students. 2 questions you will have to do homework immediately after this. After the lecture gets over, 2 questions immediately as a final practice. These are the final practice, students. Now, all these are the final practice, students, that you are going to do. Now, this question, students, see question number 10. Andes Private Limited, a registered supplier, manufactures product A and B. Two products is manufacturing, students. Two products is manufacturing. While A is taxable under the forward charge, B is taxable under the reverse charge, students. B is taxable under the reverse charge. Now, reverse charge for the goods, we already know what it is. We have done that. In that, the invoice date, the date of issue of invoice, that becomes irrelevant. And why is it so? We already know that. So, students, that 61st day is what has to be considered. Remember that? Sorry, the 31st day for the goods part in this regard. So, we have done this particular proposition, students. And my only suggestion is that, students, this is the classic homework. Okay, this is not that difficult. The difficulty is on the service and the goods together. Those type of question, job work and the supply of goods, or the question that we just did now. That case of the first to establish that whether it is a supply of goods or it is a supply of service. So therefore, remember that thing, that the topic. So please understand, friends, what has happened. Why I just want to create a one important awareness in your mind. Remember, students, what has happened over here is that schedule number 2, students. This schedule number 2 is an important one. Why it is an important one? Because schedule number 2 identifies, or may I say classify what? A supplier. Supplier is what? Supplier is either the goods or service. We have got umpteen examples. Remember last lecture we did job work. Job work, we said that as per schedule 2, it is what? It is a provision of service, supply of service. And because it is supply of service, therefore we went to section 13 too. So schedule 2, same way. What about restaurant? Restaurant is also a supply of service. What about the construction? Again, supply of service subject to some condition. It should not be a sale of building, because if sale of building exists, then in that case we say that it is not a neither a supply of goods nor a supply of service. So schedule 2 becomes an important thing for all of us, because it classifies whether the supply is a service or it is a goods. Because based on that, our section of time of supply will change, which we have seen in those questions that we did other day and today also. Apart from that, what is the composite supply, section 8? In this case, the composite supply, in this regard, students, if you remember that, if the composite is goods plus service together and it is naturally bundled, so you need to identify the bundle with the predominant one, the predominant supply. That is how the bundle would be identified with. And if the predominant is goods, the entire composite is goods. And if it is goods, time of supply, section 12. If it is service, time of supply, section 13. Are you getting this particular point or not? This case, this is what these provisions are all about. So this provision becomes so important. See, in CA final, they're testing you. So what did I told you, students? They will not ask you an independent question on composite supply. They may not be asking you an independent question on time of supply. But yes, will they try to combine composite supply and time of supply together? And the answer is this is what these people have done. So students, ensure to do this question number 10 for practice. It will be a good practice for all of you. This context, product A, students, product A is a forward charge. So forward charge is normal 12.2. What about the reverse charge? Reverse charge will go under 12.3. 12.3 provision is there. Apply the provision, get the answer. Okay, the provisions are straightforward as far as the reverse charge is concerned. So you can easily know what is the time of supply, and please get the answer accordingly. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. If that is the case, students, let's proceed further now. Now I come to students in this particular context. Please come to quickly on the theoretical part. So students, we have done all this thing. Section 31, everything we have done. Reverse charge also we did. Reverse charge also we did, students. Okay. Associate enterprise, remember import of service from the associate enterprise. Import of service from the associate enterprise, even that was being done by us. Even that was being done by us. Now I come to this part, students. Time of supply of vouchers exchangeable for goods and service, students. Time of supply of voucher which is exchangeable for goods and service. So for what is the time of supply for the voucher which is exchangeable for goods and service? So time of supply in that particular case. Please tell me in that case, students. Indeed. So students, what we say over here is this, that in this regard, the voucher which has been given to you, is it like a 10,000 rupees voucher? You go whatever you want to purchase in Shopper Stop, you go and purchase. Is a kind of a voucher? This is voucher number one. Example, I'm giving it to you. Voucher number one is I'm giving you a 10,000 gift voucher. Go to Shopper Stop, buy anything of rupees 10,000. Up to you. Voucher number two, I am giving you a voucher from which you go to the electronic shop, and from that you will purchase the iPad, iPad of Apple, iPad of Apple company. So the second voucher which I'm giving you is identifiable with a particular goods, whereas first particular voucher is a general voucher, not identified with any particular goods or service. If that is the case, students, in this case, what it says, point number A, supply of goods. For goods, students, it is 12.4, and service, it is 13.4. If it is identifiable, my second example, because it was for voucher given to get the laptop. Identifiable at the time of issue of voucher, students. Supply of goods or service is identifiable at the time of issue of voucher. Then in that case, what happens? The date when I have given you the voucher, that becomes the time of supply. If the voucher is identifiable with the goods or service. But if you say no, sir, it is a general voucher, my first example, then on the time of supply of that voucher will be when you actually redeem the voucher for a particular goods or service, as the case. So as and when you do the redemption, students, as and when you do the redemption, that becomes your time of supply. That becomes your time of supply. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. That exactly the point, students. With that, students, we are done with this. And I think all of you are aware of that particular part. The interest, late fee and penalty, IPL. As far as the IPL is concerned, students, please understand, this is the interest, penalty or late fees which is recovered because of the delay in the original consideration. Therefore, the time of supply in respect of IPL is when the amount has been received. Is that point clear to all of you? That's exactly the point. We have done this particular thing earlier also. With that, students, the last point and the quick point. It's a very simplest point, but an important point. As far as our examinations are concerned, it's an important one. You should know. Students, you may be knowing the fact that the rate of tax keeps changing in between. Many of you all are aware of it, isn't it? And with the rate of taxes getting changing in between, students, what happens over here? So, students, it's a very simple thing. I just give you a quick formula how to really crack this kind of a thing. So, just check, students. I'll take case 1. So here is a change. The event of change has happened. The change in the rate. Change in what? The rate of time. You first identify whether the supply that you have done, is it before the change or the supply was after the change. Whether the supply, students, is before the change, that is the case, or supply is after the change. Let's take if it is before the change. Fine. If it is before the change. Now, friends, as you know, time of supply, there are 3 things which are there. One is a supply, another is a invoice, and the third one is a payment. Okay, one is a invoice, another is a supply, and third is a payment. Now, as I told you, first you have to freeze where is the supply. First, you have to freeze, students, where is the supply. So please freeze your supply. In the question, say for example, the supply is before. Okay. Now you identify in the question the other two events. What is the other two events? One is a payment. The payment has been received over here, and the invoice also was being issued over here, which means that the invoice and the payment has happened after the change in the rate. Supply has happened before, whereas the invoice and the payment has happened after this. So do you know what has happened, students? The two events has gone after the change, and only one event is before the change. And if it is the case, then your applicable rate of tax would be where your two events lies. Where your two event lies, and your two events is after the change. Therefore, the rate of tax would be the rate of tax would be the rate of tax would be the new rate. That is after the change. What is the new rate? That rate is what would be made applicable. That rate is what would be made applicable to the supply under consideration. To the supply under consideration. Okay, so because the two events is over here. Now, accordingly, what is the time of supply then? Student, the time of supply. Student, now be careful. The time of supply you have to write. Obviously, now you know what is the rate. Rate, students, is the rate which is the new rate. Why new rate? Because the two events is after the new rate has notified. The two events is after the new rate is notified. So therefore, the time of supply has happened after this particular date. So what is the time of supply, students? So time of supply, students, be careful. Huh? It is, you will write like this. The new rate, yes, new rate. But time of supply is what? It is the payment or invoice, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. Payment or invoice, whichever is earlier. And what is the rate that you're going to apply in the question? In the question, what is the rate that you're going to apply? Old rate or the new rate? New rate. New rate, students. Isn't it? Now let's twist the question, students. Now. So that is what it is. That is what it is, students. So therefore, now in this regard, students, so what is the time of supply? Again, I'm repeating, students, time of supply in this case is payment date or the invoice date, whichever is earlier. That is the time of supply. Obviously, if that is the time of supply, you will take the new rate only. You will not take the old rate, isn't it? But let me change this question a bit. Now, my question is like this. My question goes like this. Supply is over here. Okay, now I have issued also the invoice over here. I have issued the invoice also over here. But the payment was received. Payment was received after what? After the change has taken place. The payment was received after the change has taken place. So therefore, the question is, what is the time of supply? So again, over here, students, now the two events is before the change. Two events is before the change. So therefore, the time of supply also will go over here. That is before the change. Do you all got it now? The two event is before the change. So whatever is the applicable rate? What is the applicable rate? The applicable rate would be the old rate, not the new rate. The applicable rate would be the old rate. So therefore, students, the applicable rate on this supply, applicable rate would be the old rate. All of you agree to this one? Applicable rate would be the old rate. What is the time of supply? Time of supply is the date of invoice. Date of invoice. Time of supply would be the date of invoice. Many students are asking, sir, why date of invoice? Why don't you write supply or invoice, whichever is earlier? I will not write that. I will not write that, students. Date of supply or date of invoice, whichever is earlier, I will not write that. I will write date of invoice. Why? Please understand, in this concept of section 14, we are doing section 14 right now. In this section, in this concept of section 14, you have to have the time of supply either as a date of payment or the date of invoice. One of the two dates only will be your final answer. Date of supply will never be. Date of supply, students, will never be your answer. Fine. But date of supply is used to do what, students? To do that 2:1 ratio. The date of supply is used to do that 2:1 ratio. Means where your weight is. Whether your weight is before the change or after the change. For that purpose only, the supply when the supply has taken place is considered. But to finally write the answer or the conclusion that what is the time of supply, your time of supply would only be either the date of invoice or the date of payment. If both the date of invoice and both the date of payment are in one particular category, which was there in my previous case study, payment date and the invoice date happened after the change. The payment date and the invoice date happened after the change. So therefore, I have to do what? Whichever is earlier. Between the invoice date and the payment date, whichever is earlier. But in this question right now, which I'm doing with you, invoice date is before the change, payment date is after the change. And supply is also before the change. Supply is when, students? Before the change. And if the supply is, students, before the change, accordingly, you know that the old rate is going to be made applicable. The old rate is going to be made applicable. And now you finally conclude the answer by stating what is the time of supply? The time of supply would be the date of invoice. The date of invoice. I hope that every one of you are clear with this one. Everyone. You'll say, sir, what do you do if supposing the supply goes here? If the supply goes here, so what is that thing to be done? Play the game. The way you used to play the game. And this becomes 2 and this becomes 1. So where is the weight? The weight has shifted after the change. So the new rate is going to be applicable in this case. In this case, the new rate will be made applicable. And if the new rate is going to be made applicable, you will charge the GST at the new rate on that supply. You will charge the GST at the new rate on that supply. Now, in that case, students, what is the time of supply? What is the time of supply in this question? The time of supply would be the date of receipt of payment. The date of receipt of payment. Not earlier of supply date, the date of receipt of payment. You don't do that. Supply date, the time of supply, so far as section 14 is concerned, will either be date of payment or the date of invoice. If both date of payment and date of invoice is in one category, which was the case in my first case study, then it is earlier of the two. Then it is earlier of the two. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. Now, students, it is just like playing the games. How much you want to play the games is up to you. One point of time, you will get tired by playing such games. Let's have a look. Let's have a look, students. Question number 4. Question number 3. An online portal, best information, raises invoice for database access on 21st of February on Roy and Bansal Limited. On Roy and Bansal Limited. The payment is made by Roy and Bansal Limited by a demand draft sent on 25th of February. So when the demand draft was sent, 25th, it was dispatched, which is received and entered in the accounts of best information on 20th of February. So remember, the date of receipt is earlier of the two dates. The date of receipt, what is the date of receipt, students? I already taught you in the first class. The date of receipt would be earlier of the two dates. Which are the two dates? The date when it is entered in the books, and the second date is when it is credited in the bank account, whichever is earlier. Date when it is entered in the books, and what is the second date? The date when it is credited in the bank account, whichever is earlier. That is what we say in this case, isn't it? So book entry happened on 20th of February. Best Info encashes the demand draft. Encashes the demand draft. And thereafter gives access to the database to Roy and Bansal. Then it gives access to Roy and Bansal from 3rd of March. So when the supply has happened, 3rd of March. When the supply has happened, 3rd of March. Because the access has been given on 3rd of March. Students, they have not given you the when it is credited in the bank. They have not given you when it is credited in the bank in this question. Anyway, we'll take 20th of February only as a date when it is received. We'll take only 20th of February as the date when it is received because they have not given you the date when actually it is credited in the bank. Anyway, now what is the final question, students? In the meanwhile, the rate of taxes changed from 1st March. So 1st March, the rate has changed. So when is the supply, by the way? Supply is after. So change has happened. Change has happened. When is the change has happened? 1st March. 1st March, students, the change has happened. When the supply has happened, students, after the change, which is 3rd March. Which is the 3rd March, students? In this context. What about the date of payment in this regard, students? 20th of February. The date of payment is 20th of February. Is the payment date. What about the other one, students? Invoice date. Invoice is 21st of February. 21st of February. Students, two date has happened over here. This is the invoice date. So therefore, the applicable rate, tell me, applicable rate would be, this is how you have to write. Now conclusion would be like this. Applicable rate would be old rate. What is the time of supply under section 14? It will be invoice or payment, whichever is earlier. And in this case, it is 21st of Feb. This is what additionally we'll write in the answer. Did you all got this, students? Kavita? I hope that all of you are clear with this one. The applicable rate, how you're going to present your answer? Two ways. In this 2 points. One is, what is the applicable rate? Old rate. What is the time of supply under 14? Now in this case, both payment and invoice, both are there. Both the events are there. So earlier of the 2 dates. Okay. This is the final answer. Now come to the other question. Students, this is only like this. We are just spending time now. This is the only thing. Let's do one more question for your satisfaction. So at least you will feel that we have done it. Let's do this question number 8. Basis the following information, determine the time of supply. Commencement of provision of service. We don't care about commencement. We only care about the completion. Completion of service is 10th of October. Invoice issued 20th October. Payment received by check 15th of October. Amount credited in the bank 18th of October. So I'll take 15th of October. Fruits. Rate change has happened on 16th of October. Fruits. So tell me now, rate change has happened 16th of October. 16th October. Rate change. Okay. Now tell me in this case, the payment received. Payment received 15th. 15th of October, students. Payment received. Do you all agree? What next, students? What next? Invoice issued 20th of October. So invoice issued goes here. 20th of October, invoice issued. Where is the supply? Completion. Where is the supply? Completion. 10th of October is the completion. So supply is before. Supply is here. So this is 10th October. Isn't it? That exactly is the game. So where the two events? Two events is over here. So tell me the final answer. Final answer therefore is, you know the final answer, students, in this case. Final answer is applicable rate. Old rate, can I say? Applicable rate, old rate. And what about the time of supply? Time of supply is 15th of October, which is the date of payment. Are you enjoying to play this game, students? When you feel sleepy, play such game. 15th of October. Don't write like this. The way prepare the statement and do it in that way. Now, if you just want a homework to just see that whether you can play the game like this or not, there's a bit of jealousy that is crept in. That we also want to play this game independently, isn't it? If you want to play this game independently, students, question number 11 is your homework. Question number 11 is your homework, students. Is that point clear to all of you? Everyone. So question number 11 and question number 10, students. Quickly do it. 10 and 11 homework. Through with the topic. Time of supply through, students. We start with the next topic, which is what is the next topic? Are you aware of that or not? Payment of tax. Payment of tax, students. See you then, students, tomorrow night for payment of tax. Take care. Do that 2 questions now, students. And again, I'm repeating those who have just the first 5 minutes. Please go through the first 5 minutes. I have told how we are going to complete GST this month, and strategy I have already laid down in this video, and therefore